Masters of the Universe. Visually, it's an interesting show. It ties into my childhood. Back when there was a time before we even had cable TV, let alone streaming, you know, I could come home from school and count on that show being there every damn day, like a family member, like a friend and stuff. It's beautiful to look at. It's fun. It's a world of sword and sorcery to some degree, although they never seem to fight, ever. But the thing about it that always really worked for me is the story behind the story. The story behind the story is Prince Adam. That's really what it comes down to. It's all about Prince Adam. And Prince Adam is somebody that most people have already made their mind up about. They already know how they feel about him. They've dismissed him or they've put him in a box. And he's easy to relegate to positions like Prince Adam. We have important things to do over here. But Prince Adam knows that deep down inside, like, he is the most powerful person in the universe. Like, for somebody who grew up chubby like I did, or fucking flat out fat, I'll be honest with you, that meant something, because sometimes you are relegated to a position of less than. People don't know who you are. They don't see your light shine from within or something like that. And that's why that character always appealed to me. That's why when I worked on, you know, Revelations, it was a very Prince Adam forward story, because at the end of the day, I love He-Man, don't get me wrong. I love any butch dude in a loincloth. Like, that just does it for me, absolutely. But at the end of the day, Prince Adam is my hero, and that's what brought me to work on this wonderful franchise. And so I'm happy to be here with y'all, celebrating the 40th birthday of Masters of the Universe. I have a panel full of people to introduce you to. Let's do that right now, shall we? For those who've been following along or not following along, I worked on the Mattel Netflix series, Masters of the Universe, Revelations. They announced that we're doing a sequel series called Revolutions. And you know what? It's going to be amazing. You could probably, if you really think about it, figure out what a possible third season would be called based on those two titles. I would love to tell you that what I did on the show was universally acclaimed, so I'm just going to leave it right there. However, there were a few times that, like, me and my mouth got me in trouble and stuff, and so I will be closely following the script this evening, ladies and gentlemen. That cum joke wasn't part of it, I'm sorry. So based on the script that we got right here, kids, I'm going to bring out the panelists. Now, our first guest is my friend and partner in crime. Right before we came up here, I gave him a big hug backstage and said, thank you for bringing me into this world. As more than just somebody who watched the show growing up. Thank you for letting me play in the sandbox, man. He is the VP of Content Creative at Mattel Television, executive producer on Masters of the Universe, Revelation. He's my boss, you know, technically. And EP and showrunner of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, our sister/brother cartoon, which, you know, looks like a CG cartoon. It looks amazing and shit like that. Please give it up for the man without whom I wouldn't be here. And so that means if you don't like the shit I do, blame this man. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the stage, Rob David. Next up, man, we have the VP of Action Figure Design at Mattel. Him and his skilled team of designers work to bring you the toys for brands like Jurassic World, Pixar, WWE, Minecraft, Minions, and the reason we're all here right now, of course, Masters of the Universe. Give it up for the amazing Derek Handy, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, man. Now this is a cat that I met at the first time at PowerCon 3 years ago in the before times and shit like that. And I remember when we met, I was like, we'll hang out a lot, and then COVID. So I finally got to see him for the first time since I met him. And give a warm welcome to the host of the popular Pixel Dan YouTube channel and co-author of the Toys of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, Pixel Dan Erdley, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, man, the writer of the first 2 novels in the Tales of Eternia series, starting with The Hunt for Mossman. He's the author of 15 books, including the Atlantis novels and several bestsellers with Bill Nye and Neil deGrasse Tyson. Give it up for Gregory Moan, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, you're going to recognize our next panelist from a bunch of things. I got to read them, there's so many. Supernatural, Becoming Royal. Most recently, she's starring in a feature film, Aloha with Love. And her and I have co-hosted a few things together, from DC Daily to AMC's Geeking Out. Please welcome actress, host, and self-described geek. You know her as the voice of Masters of the Universe, Revelations, Badass Engineer. She's our very own Man-at-Arms Andra. Give it up for Tiffany Smith, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, man, finally a fucking Smith that matters. You know this next cat from movies galore, man, including A View to a Kill and Rocky IV. You know him from the Expendables series. You know him from Aquaman and The Lost Nation. He's a director, a model, and yes, he has a master's in chemical engineering, ladies and gentlemen. But maybe most importantly to this crowd, you know him as He-Man, the star of 1987's live-action film Masters of the Universe, the legend Dolph Lundgren, ladies. And finally, kids, man, a He-Man should never go into battle without Battle Cat, his trusty Battle Cat. And joining us here today is the voice of Cringer / Battle Cat. Please welcome Revelation's very own and the world's Stephen Root, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, kids. Today we're going to try to encapsulate 40 years of Motu history with this panel right here, ladies and gentlemen. So we're going to start with talk of the action figures. Dan, you wrote a book about the phenomenon. Tell us about your research documenting this history, the history of Masters of the Universe, please.
Oh my goodness. Well, first of all, I want to say that writing that book is a passion project of mine. I mean, this is something that I've loved my entire life, and getting the opportunity to write the official book, the book about the toys, is something that I greatly appreciate and will cherish forever. But the cool thing about this book, that is my favorite thing that I'll always look back on, is how I got to interact with the fan community. Because when we set out to do this book, myself and my business partner Val Staples, we decided we were going to do this right, which means we needed to photograph. We had to find and photograph every single toy that had ever been released since 1982 up to that point, which was like 2019. And I have a lot of toys, but I don't have that many toys. So we had to reach out to the fans. And basically what we did is we just traveled all around the country, finding fans who would let me come into their homes, set up a photo studio for the weekend, and photograph their action figures and their packaged stuff, open stuff. And it was awesome, because every single time I did that, not only did I get to like meet and like interact with somebody who loved this stuff as much as me, but they would always say, well, you should go talk to this person, you should talk to this person. And we just followed the trail. Fans just kept recommending more and more people for me to meet. And that's how we were able to capture everything for this book. So meeting with the fans, seeing how they focused on their collecting, what mattered to them, what it meant to them, is what I will always remember about writing this book. And it makes me so proud that this book is literally written by the fans. It is a book by the fans for the fans, and I'm so proud of that.
If you've not seen the book of picked it up, if you're a Motu fan, pick it up. Try to pick it up. It's heavy as fuck. It'll kill a person if you drop it off a building. It's very thick and full of information. But that's what precedes at every turn of the page. Nothing but passion. Like your passion when you watch the Pixel Dan YouTube show. The enthusiasm you bring to it. A lot of people sitting in the audience today are here because of that enthusiasm. So during a time when Motu might have been dormant or something like that, you've kept the fires burning. So thank you so much. Real quick, what was your own personal action figure collecting journey like?
Oh my goodness. Well, I couldn't have really started this. I love this picture. But there I am. So my mom, I'm gonna get emotional, but
do it.
I love her to death, and I wish she was here because this is because of her. Like, she still tells stories all the time about how she would make friends with people at retail so that she knew when the new He-Man toys were going to be there, so that she could buy the He-Man toys. She was like the original toy hunter, okay? And I love it so much, just thinking about, I went to see Dolph in the '87 movie with my mom. And, Secret of the Sword, like all that stuff. Like, she was just as into this as me. And so when I look at that stuff, yeah, it's all for my mom too, so, yeah.
Derek, your team is in charge of design for Motu action figures. What is it like to carry on a 40-year legacy? As somebody who's played with someone else's toys in this very same arena, there's expectation when you do it. People are like, I know what this is supposed to be. So is there pressure or freedom in doing what you do?
No pressure whatsoever. It's completely fine. No, I mean, I've been with Mattel for quite a few years now, but it's nothing compared to the 40 years of history with Motu. I grew up playing with Master Universe characters. I had Gastroid Skull, love it. But completely grateful for all the designers that came before us and the heritage that's been established that now we're trying to build the next chapter on top of. It's amazing. You couldn't ask for more to be a designer of Motu.
What is the key component that's a toy maker needs?
I'm going to say love. You really got to know the brand. You've got to be attached to it. If you're not, fans will let you know. And you try to course correct and make up for things that you've done in the past that may not be quite what people are looking for. But you're always trying, you're always pushing, definitely.
What is the coolest thing you're working on right now?
I have a few slides if we want to share.
Well, what an appropriate question. They got it scripted.
It's like we planned that. All right.
Look at this shit.
So right now, if you go up to the booth, we have our 40th anniversary Masterverse pack with He-Man and Skeletor in their 80s look. It features things like a flocked loincloth, a movable jaw on Skeletor, and my favorite die-cast swords that are just amazing and worth the money just for the die-cast weapons. Below that, you see a 4-pack, one He-Man Origins figure for each of the 4 decades of animation, running from the original Filmation to the new He-Man and Master Universe series. All of those have VUM swords. You can see the in-booth, the full package of that. That will be on Mattel Creations later on this fall. If you're a huge fan of the new animated series, like I am, next slide. You can see the new Castle Grayskull, which you also see on the side of the stage over here. We'll give you a little sizzle here. It is the first Castle Grayskull with lights, sound, and a working drawbridge. It's amazing. That should start hitting shores, limited retail, October, November. The .coms like Amazon is probably the best place to find it. Definitely look at that. Try to pick it up. It fits both the Origins figures as well as the new animated series. If you're someone who's a die-hard Origins fan and love specifically the 80s look, we've got a lot more coming for you in 2023. We have the Rise of Snake Men, more Snake Men than you can shake a stick at. It's going to be good, and we're going to get into a lot of the characters that you haven't seen so far. It's really building out the line and getting the depth of character that I think everybody wants. And as you're bringing in all these factions, you'll have the Sunman Rulers of the Sun, you've got Snake Men, you've got your heroes, you've got your Horde, you've got your villains. You really need a play set that brings all those groups together. A place that is the biggest play set that He-Man and the Masters of the Universe have ever seen. Next slide. this fall we're going to do a crowdfund. It's not very often we get to come out to an event where you can actually put out physical products. This one, to really appreciate it, you need to go in the booth and see how massive this thing is. So you can start planning where you want to move furniture, where in the house it's really big. It'll be expensive. It's worth every penny. We'll share more details on this coming up as we get into fall. And if that's not enough, you can also go to next slide. Tomorrow we have an in-booth panel. You can come talk to our designers, ask all the questions you want. 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock at booth 3029. We'll get into all those details, have a huge amount of reveals, and you can get our brains about things. Because there's a lot of other conversation that we want to have here today. So next slide, we'll be talking about things like the Fall Guys, which are coming up this fall. They'll be not only in-game as skins, but you can see in the booth we have some 3D printed figures. Those will be coming out as well. You'll be able to pre-order those. It's a ton of fun. If you come in the booth, there's some little clips of videos to see how chaotic and enjoyable those are. And then if that's not enough, next slide, there's more. Mo Tuesdays will start next Tuesday. If you go on our 4 social media handles, you can see behind the scenes, debuts, sneak peeks, all those things you want. And it culminates with October 12th, which is He-Man's birthday. So check it out.
Give it up for Derek. He brought you nothing but joy, man. Well done. We get joy. Motu has been around for 40 years, and the TV comic books have been an important part of history for almost as long. Rob, in your role at Mattel, you are responsible for creating, coordinating a grand narrative for the entire Motu multiverse that plays out across 2 different shows on TV, video games, publishing, and more. So the question is, how do you approach that role? What is your creative process? I've seen a little bit of it because I'm in this world because Rob brought me in. And in terms of having a boss between working for him at Mattel and working for Teddy Biaselli at Netflix, you have 2 people that adore this franchise. You cannot go wrong because they know every piece of history, whether it's like just from what we all saw on the show or deep cuts Mattel stuff. So my hat's off to, I never take my hat off, but my hat's off to having absolutely worked with you. But what is your process? How do you spin that many plates?
No, I try to, because I try to hold on to that joy that I felt and we all felt, laying down on our shag carpets and watching He-Man on our cathode ray tube TVs were old. And the joy we felt. And if you hold on to that joy, no matter what project we're working on, I think then you hopefully retain the spirit of Motu that we all fell in love with to begin with. And then also I work very closely with Ted Biaselli at Netflix and also our Mattel franchise team and toy team to really boil down the essence of Masters of the Universe. And there's nothing more central to Motu than the idea that inside each and every one of us is something truly unique and special. And if you can unlock it, and the Sword of Power has always been a metaphor for a key, you can unleash this tremendous power, a power that's great enough to transform not only yourself, but the entire universe. And if you stay true to that idea, she'll always bring you home. And by that, I mean that even when we do wildly different interpretations of Motu, whether it's a more classic based Revelation or the more multiverse approach to New Eternia or the CG animated He-Man and the Masters of the Universe series, they're all still intrinsically Motu. And speaking of the CG animated He-Man and the Masters of the Universe series, this was our big chance to reimagine it, with a future forward sensibility for today's kids and families, but still retaining all of the, the self-discovery and the themes of mastery and the epic high stakes of good versus evil. And I cannot wait for you guys to see season 3 debuting on Netflix on August 18th. Because if you remember, last season ended with Crass, our Ram Bam, turning to Havoc and joining Skeletor as Rampage, and they've captured Castle Grayskull, and they've used the Sigil of Hiss to raise up an army of undead zombie snake men, and Skeletor is determined to transform the entire universe in his image, and it's up to He-Man and the heroic Masters of the Universe to reveal all of the secrets of Grayskull and stop him. And we actually brought with us a trailer to season 3. Mindy, if you could cue it up. I don't know if you guys want to see it. world debut of the trailer to season 3. Hope you enjoy.
The universe is always in danger. Bad things happen. Good things happen too.
We have to save Eternia. We can't afford to fail.
Whatever decision you make, He-Man, I trust it will be the right one.
These snakes are a threat to all Eternia.
The sigil re-zombifies those zombies faster than we can beat them down. King Grayskull had to use Havoc to defeat the snakes. Does that mean we will too?
King Grayskull crossed an unforgivable line. He embraced Havoc.
He did it to save Eternia. Clearly, he felt he had no choice.
There is always a choice, my son.
Have we considered calling Rampage and asking her?
We aren't calling her that.
I'm my own person! If nothing else, finding some way to get through to Krass might mean learning what Skeletor's endgame is.
Maybe we can undo whatever's been done and bring her back over to our side.
Do you really think it'll be that easy?
I have to.
No matter how much power you have at your disposal, not everything can be fixed at the flip of a switch.
Being able to call on great power doesn't make you strong. What it does is knowing when it's time to use it and when it's time to let go.
Take a seat. The show's just getting started.
Come on, we're masters of the universe. What could happen? Fear not, masters. For I have returned.
So beautiful, man. And it's such a wonderful reinvention and reincorporation of everything that's great about Masters. Watching that reminds me of, I saw a tweet the other day where they did side-by-side versions of Skeletor. Our Skeletor from Rebel Chicken and the Skeletor from He-Man and the Masters Universe. And they called your Skeletor, the Skeletor we just saw, the Chad Skeletor. And they called my Skeletor the fucking Cup Skeletor. So well done on that, man. This is a good transition to get to Greg. Greg, what was it like to write a new adventure within the world of this Netflix series, man?
Well, first of all, I want to know who set it up so that I have to follow that trailer.
I know, right?
Yeah, it's not fair.
You should feel like invigorated.
Yeah, exactly. Well, first of all, it started with like the strangest book deal ever, where my publisher sent me a picture of Prince Adam from the old show in an email, and that was it. And then I ran downstairs and put on a Skeletor shirt and sent him back a selfie. And then I said to my wife, I was like, I think I'm writing a He-Man book. I'm not really sure. But getting a chance to play in this world that Rob and his team had designed for the Netflix series was amazing, because I found myself watching the show and not only loving it, but pausing every few seconds to look at some little detail in the background, and all of a sudden you see a sentient pumpkin bouncing around. I'm like, what is that? And Rob says, oh, well, that's a nabbit. Everything was named and described in such wonderful detail. And then in terms of taking the approach of a novel, it was great to be able to just get inside He-Man's head and really kind of imagine what it would be like to be this teenager who suddenly picks up a sword and transforms into this giant warrior. And not only that, but I think one of the cool things about the series is that it's still Adam inside this giant guy, right? It's still a kid. And so, again, getting inside his head as he's taken on these new responsibilities, having to protect this entire planet from Skeletor. So we had a great time with it, working closely with Rob and the team, and it features some great characters that didn't make it into the show, like Boss Man and Granomir and a bunch of stuff like that. So yeah. What's that?
No, no. Greg is amazing, and just like you said, like being able to get inside the characters in a prose novel is such an amazing thing. And the Mossman, Hunt for Mossman book is already up, but the one that's upcoming is that Greg wrote is absolutely my favorite. It's Skeletor's autobiography, and it's written in first person, and it's so much fun.
Skeletor, that's awesome. How do you prepare to write a Skeletor autobiography?
I mean, it's pretty hard, and this is the first time we're revealing the cover up here, which I'm pretty excited about. But, I just watched, look, I played with these toys when I was little, and I absolutely loved the show when I was younger. Anytime you're writing a story, right, having a great villain or a great antagonist is just awesome. And to have Skeletor be that guy it was a tremendous amount of pressure. You got to come up with the one-liners, the humor, all of it, but telling the story from his perspective, and working with Rob and sort of going deep into his history and growing up with Randor in the palace as they're both kind of vying for the throne. And, so the book kind of cuts back and forth between that, these days from his youth, and then also he kind of retells some of the events in the series in a funny way. So, he and He-Man get in a fight outside Snake Mountain one time, and in Skeletor's version, He-Man didn't actually knock him out. It was just as the punch was on its way, he decided to take a quick restorative nap, and he fell asleep. But we had a lot of fun, and the story goes, it really carries Skeletor all the way through to where we even did the acknowledgments in his voice. And so normally in a book, you're very thankful and appreciative, and Skeletor, he's not going to thank anybody, so he's really bitter about having to write these acknowledgments. But that one comes out in November, and we're pretty excited about it. Rob and I worked really closely together on it, and I'll be around in the autographing area at 6:30 signing the first one if anyone's around.
You're live, man. Yeah. We all love Skeletor, but we have He-Man sitting right here with us, man. Give it up to Dolph London, ladies. 1987, I paid hard-earned money of my own to go see this in the movie theater with some friends, man, so I was there supporting. Was there a lot of pressure for you to embody this character the first time?
Well, just want to say first, thanks for being here. It's great to be here. It's great to be here in San Diego, Comic-Con. Last time was Expendables 2, I think it was. But, actually I had a sort of flashback walking in here to another stage about 3 decades ago. It was Radio City Music Hall, 1986, and I was announced to play He-Man in front of an audience of little kids, 5-year-old kids with little swords, and their parents. And I was standing on stage as they were cheering and yelling, "I have the power!" Wondering if it was a good idea to do this movie, because playing a toy in those days were like kind of the end of your career, maybe. But the fact that we're still here and all these wonderful people are still very, very into this character and this universe, and you're all sitting here, means that this franchise is still very relevant and people love it, and I really love to be part of it. So thanks for inviting me. Really appreciate that. You're our hero, man. It's pretty amazing. And yes, to answer your question, I had played. I've been in one film really. I did a little stint in a Bond movie, and then I played Captain Ivan Drago, who was a Soviet bad guy. And unfortunately, Stallone wrote the script where I had to kill Apollo Creed, which I felt really bad about because I was a big Rocky fan and Apollo Creed fan. But, in my next film, the year later, I had to play this American hero who was, kind of a very real good guy. And there was a lot of pressure from Mattel, from Golden Globus, Canon Films, and also in myself to play this character, to do a good job. So I'm really happy so many people seem to like the movie. I still thought it was a pretty good film. Yeah, very special. Yeah.
Is remember anything about shooting the film? They just put up the picture behind you when you were talking at one point, and all I could think about is how cold you must have been for most of the show. Look at that.
Yeah.
Very little left to the imagination. You had to think about baseball the whole time.
Yeah, I used to say my costume was the size of a stamp, basically. A leather stamp with some straps onto. Yeah, it was very cold. We shot, I think it was 54 nights in a row in Whittier, which was a record of the most night shoots ever in Hollywood until Scorsese made After Hours. So I was really cold, yes, to answer your question. I didn't have to think of, what was you said?
Baseball.
Baseball. No, I didn't have. Everything was very, very small.
Everything stayed where it had to.
It took 40 years, but He-Man finally talked about his dick, ladies and gentlemen. What's here? We're at Comic-Con, so I got to ask a geeky question. Who wins in a fight, Ivan Drago or He-Man?
Well, I gotta say He-Man right here.
Yeah. You better say He-Man right
here. You gotta take out the Russians and everything. They're bad guys. Just like in '85. Vladimir, I didn't mean that. Don't put a hit on me.
Okay, there's been so much Masters of the Universe spanning from '87 to 2000. What year was the series that they did what year did they do the Masters of the Universe series that everyone online tells me I should have made instead?
Oh, 85 Filmation.
2002.
No,
82 is the toys.
No,
yeah.
2000.
2002. There you go, Mike Young Productions.
Oh,
there you go.
Yes, the Mike Young.
There you go.
Very imaginative. People love it, and they constantly tell me online, do that next time, which we're trying. But I'm going to throw it over to Tiffany right now. Tiffany, you joined us in the world of Revelations, and you were so excited to get the gig. Like everyone who did the gig did it with some form of like, oh, I love this when I was a kid, or my kids love this when I was younger. You also have like a very personal entree into this world. Tell us about it.
Yeah. So I grew up watching all these cartoons and everything with my sister, and we would do the like, I don't know if anybody else did this, but we would sit down in front of the TV, and when the theme song starts playing, you're like, I'm her, I'm him. You didn't do anything while you were watching, but you just like got to be like, every time they were doing cool stuff, you're like, look, I can do that. So I did that with He-Man, and my sister and I would run around the house in like our little costumes and be like, I'm all these characters. I'm He-Man, She-Ra, Princess of Power. Like everyone rolled together.
Wow.
And yes, I had a school photo, and of course I had to take one of my She-Ra action figures with me to school. I don't think they said to bring an action figure, but I did. And that has happened. I feel like I need to reenact that photo at some point with Andra. I need to get like a polka dotted dress again.
You and Pixel Dan are adorable for bringing childhood photos.
I mean, it's like, I have to say, from that moment to now, to getting to do the show and being here with all of you guys in Hall H at Comic-Con, it's like kid dreams come true. I grew up with all this stuff, so sitting up here, like walking out, I was like, I'm in freaking Hall H for He-Man, Masters of the Universe stuff. Like,
I know, right?
I just feel so thankful. I'm like here with all my peeps because, like we said, yes, I'm a geek and I'm proud of it. So.
You were such an important character for us in the writers' room because you represented the first person who wasn't unfamiliar with the franchise, their way in. You were the character that was going to walk people in who were like, oh, what is this world? So when we were writing your voice, we got to use your voice because we knew it was going to be you. And you were so welcoming and warm and enthusiastic. Andra is just so damn happy to be there. She meets like the legend she's always heard about and whatnot. What did you do to prepare to play? Did you prepare? Did you show up?
I feel like, so the first day I did so much prep because I'd done voiceover, but I had never done a full series, like taking a character from the beginning to the end. So I don't know if you guys do this, but when I work on something, I will YouTube everything. Where I'm like, how many voiceover actors can I watch doing this? Who's done this? How do you prepare? How do you work on your voice? All this stuff. And then I got in there and I remember seeing Steven was actually there, and Susan Eisenberg were doing their voiceover stuff, and I'm literally, my eyes were like, oh my, they're so incredibly talented, it blew me away. And I got in and Kevin was like, just be you, but like amped up more. And I was like, all right, okay, cool. So that's kind of how I get into that headspace. She doesn't giggle quite as much as I do in real life, but the enthusiasm and excitement is totally there.
You came with a wonderful performance, thank the Lord, and did us a really solid service, man. Another person on this show came and brought the thunder. This is a cat that everybody, is probably the hardest working man in show business, ladies and gentlemen.
The oldest.
A lot of people may not realize it, but the voice of Cringer, Stephen Root, is also Milton from Office Space. Getting you involved was a dream for me. I've worked with Stephen a number of times because I'm a big fan of his work, as are most directors in Hollywood. How many times you worked with the Coen brothers alone?
Ooh, I think I'm up to 5 with that. I think I'm up to 5.
Now you came in,
but we've done 3, haven't we, at least?
You and I?
Yeah.
Yeah, we go back to Jersey Girl. That was your fault.
Yeah.
You came, and I remember also you came in on Reboot and did voices at the end.
Which was a blast. What a nice thing for this man to come in and say, do you want to be involved in this at all? Will you come in and do these background voices? And we had the best time.
He did. He did like 6 voices in the movie and stuff. What is it like when you step up to the microphone and play? You know, it's one thing when you're on camera, you obviously know how to do that, as you do insanely well on every episode of Barry that we saw as well. HBO's Barry, if you haven't seen it, like Steve did Barry as well. There you're in a world where it's like you've read full script, you've seen the actors, and so even if you forget a line, conversation just leads into conversation. What was it like to play a big green cat?
No, it was cool because I hadn't, since I'm so ancient, I was 30 years old by the time the first incarnation came out. So it was really fun for me to go back to YouTube and see Cringer, and he was played more. We did more. They did more of a stutter for him. And when I came in for the first session, he said, "No, I want to hear more heart than stutter. I want to hear the heart of Cringer," and that's what we went for.
We did, and we were so like enthralled with Stephen's performance that it shaped the narrative a little bit. Like Cringer, of course, turns into Battle Cat, and as we've seen in many incarnations, including our brother, sister, sibling show, Battle Cat has a voice. Is always hysterically, went from being cowardly lion, so to speak, to I'm ready to fight. But Stephen's performance was so soulful in Revelations that we decided to pull out the Battle Cat lines because we were like, it's going to sound corny if we ask him to sound mean now, to put on the like, I'm a tough guy Battle Cat. So when we did, this is a little spoiler about Revolution, I guess, to some degree. This time, Cringer does speak as Battle Cat. And when we went in front of the mic, I was like, well, Stephen, like, you're familiar with the cartoon. He kind of gives it a big growl. You essentially do your version of Christian Bale's Batman, I guess. And Root is such a genius actor. He was like, I wasn't thinking of doing that. I was just thinking about playing in the same way, but full of self-esteem. He's like, the difference between Cringer and Battle Cat to me is Cringer's always second-guessing himself, but Battle Cat
is confident.
Confident. And so he stepped up to the mic and did a performance of Battle Cat that is Cringer grown up. Like it was a very logical choice to make. And we loved it so much that we wrote more lines for Battle Cat because he got to be kind of come in and sage and wizened with the speeches.
But this wouldn't have happened unless they're great scripts. And you have to thank this man for that. Amazing scripts.
And many other people.
I think
you've done such a nice job asking us questions, but I think you deserve a little bit of the hot seat as well. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, this guy is so passionate about everything he does, and he has completely devoured the mythology, and he knows all of these characters inside and out, and he's such a pleasure to work with and carry the torch, not just on Revelation, but also on Revolution as our showrunner. So, Kevin, is there anything you can tell the fine folks here, Grace Golby Willing, about Revolution?
It's all about Tila. No. What can I is tell you? It's, you know, when we were doing Revelations, I thought it'd be cool to do a world without a Superman story, which is like, let's show the world how important He-Man is by not having He-Man in every episode, and the internet was like, you're a fucking idiot. So, this time around, we figured out how to tell a He-Man story with He-Man in every episode. So this time it's all about the big fight. It's all about He-Man versus Skeletor. And if you saw the end of Revelations, there was a subtle nod to a third party coming. Hordak comes. So it's pretty damn awesome. I've seen all the scripts. All the scripts are written. I've seen so far 2 animatics from the good folks at Powerhouse who do our fantastic animation. They are more than just partners. They give that show like its look, its life, its soul. Pat and Adam, our directors, are absolutely wonderful. So I watched the second animatic, and it's incredibly moving. The story is fun and full of adventure, but there's some really moving stuff going on in it. And we bring some, you know, we didn't play with every single character in the toy box the first time around. This time around in Revolutions, we start pulling some other characters, some very time-honored characters off the bench as well. So that's about all I could say without getting fired from the job and stuff. But it's been a wonderful ride thus far, man.
I have to say too, I feel like it's seeing all of you guys here and hearing everybody talk about working on Masters of the Universe in every level. On this show specifically, I feel like everyone is so passionate about it, and you can hear it when they're talking about it, that it comes across, and it made me feel so much more excited and pumped to be a part of it, because everyone put in 110%, and it sounds like across the board up here, everyone does that with this property. So, and that's for all of you guys and for all of our hearts being pumped and excited about it too.
Kevin! How can you talk about Revolution without mentioning me? You told me he was the most important character in the series.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I introduce you to our last panelist of the evening, who's joining Masters of the Universe Revolution.
William Shatner is going to be in the Motu? Oh my God.
Okay. I was going to jump over it like then failure.
Oh, I look good. So damn good. Kids, we got very lucky this season in as much as we got an icon, another icon, to join us on Masters of the Universe and take a trip with us to Eternia. As we all know, Masters takes place on Eternia, a planet at the center of the universe, far off in space. We actually got a guy who went to space later.
Thank you, Kevin. And if you want to know more about space and the things we're doing, you guys should stay for the next panel, which Kevin is going to conduct, and we'll suggest some really exciting, interesting things to you.
That's absolutely right. Right after this panel, we're doing a panel. I don't know why they need me, because the panel is called Shatner on Shatner. So I'm going to somehow try to get in and moderate a word edgewise. But can I tell a quick story about working with you on the show? We're not going to tell you who the captain is playing, and the captain's not going to say it either. He's called. No. But you know, when you put these things together, you know, of course, you're recording your actors well before the animation process even begins and whatnot. So we have laid down tracks, you know, for our shows already. We're pretty much almost done recording. I'm not the voice director. That's Colette, who's wonderful on our show. But I get to ride shotgun as the showrunner and stuff. And periodically, since I have directed, I will jump in and try to offer direction. So we were doing a session with Mr. Shatner, and at one point I jumped ahead of the gun and tried to give him some direction on where we were going with the character. And he gave me some of the best counter direction I ever heard in my life that I've been sharing with everybody. And like we were doing it on Zoom. When you record now, you can't put people in the same room because of COVID and stuff. So you're on a Zoom session, he's in a booth somewhere and stuff. So I was sitting there in my house doing this, and my wife was offside, and she was reading but kind of half paying attention. And so, I jumped in, I was like, so Bill, when we do this, like, I'm gonna need you to like come at it with it, like very fast. And Mr. Shatner cuts me off. He goes, Kevin, in a moment, you will have the honor of directing me.
What a terrible story. Terrible. All I know is that directors in these voiceover things, it's like radio. And we, the actors, never see the pictures. We don't know what they're talking about. So do we come in here fast, slow, loud? We don't know. They're loud and fast and slow and hot. And you look to them for advice, like you're now in close-up in the picture. We don't know anything. So you try everything. You try loud, then you try slow, and then you try fast. And whatever works. I didn't say honor of direction. That's terrible.
Not only did you say it, my wife was sitting off to the side, instantly put her book down, stared at me in a state of shock, and then when we were all done, she was like, well, it took fucking Captain Kirk to shut up Silent Bob.
Just one more moment on that. As all the actors up here know, you're flying blind. So the way that most people in voiceover, this kind of voiceover work, you say hello, and they say, wait a minute, the director, wait a minute, no, the hello should be a little louder. Hello, no, slower on the hello, and you can't get two words out before they're directing you. So all I said was, let me go, play the scene, and then you tell me what, So that's my...
William Shatner is amazing in the show, guys. I just want you to know he's going to be...
It honestly, like, I'm not just saying it because he's here. Obviously, I'm a big fan. But, being able to say that, like, I was involved in any way, shape, or form, a witness to the birth of a performance by a legend like this was pretty meaningful. It checked a lot of boxes for me. So thank you for doing it. Thank you for being on our show. Don't tell anyone who you're playing, but do me a favor.
I'm playing...
No.